Hello and welcome everybody to today's webinar with Heather Hoskins and the Parchment team. Just a very brief introduction before we get started with the presentation. This is a webinar format, so your microphones and your cameras are turned off by default. We encourage you to be interactive and to use chat if you need to collaborate with each other, talk to each other, or with the panelists. However, for specific questions regarding to the presentation, I would ask you to please post them in the Q&A section. We will be monitoring the Q&A sections just to make sure all the questions hopefully will be answered. If you do need to turn on the closed captions, you can do so by going on the bottom panel of Zoom and click on captions. And last but not least, this webinar is recorded and it will be available on our Acro site, hopefully by the end of today. And without any further ado, I will hand it over to Heather Hoskins. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Belma. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Heather Hoskins, and I'm the Director of Sales at Parchment for our Parchment Pathways team. And I'm very excited to share with you all today our Eliminating Manual Data Entry with Transcript Automation presentation today. Little bit about me. Again, my name's Heather. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am a second-generation Phoenician, which may be hard to believe, but it's very rare. Everyone that I know is actually from California or the Midwest, but I was born here. Both my parents were born and raised here, and that's a fact that I'm very proud of. I have been with Parchment since 2019, and prior to that, I was a transfer admissions counselor, or what University of Phoenix would consider to be a transfer admissions counselor, for about 8 years. So I have sat in your seat, or one just like it, done the work that you all do today, and it's part of the reason why I'm so excited about this tool, because I know how hard it can be to support transfer students. And just a little fun fact about me, next year in May of 2024, I will be attending the Kentucky Derby for the 5th time. So I am actively thinking about what my hat will be, what my dress might look like, and how many mint juleps I might consume that day. If anyone has attended a webinar with Parchment before, you know that our mission is to help turn credentials into opportunities. And this is because we believe that those credentials represent the critical educational and life skills that help learners across their journey. So whether that means from secondary to post-secondary admissions, from undergraduate to graduate admissions, applying to the workforce, earning an academic certificate or a professional credential, really any step in a journey that a learner might take, Parchment provides the most comprehensive credential platform to support that student. So because of this, Parchment has become the most trusted credential network with more than 4,700 K-12 issuers, 1,600 higher ed issuers, and over 7,000 institutions using Parchment Receive today. And we believe that our scale benefits our customers with not only the most expansive peer network, but a simple, reliable exchange of credentials. And to date, over 31 million credentials have been exchanged through the Parchment network, which is a fact that we are very proud of. So through this and through our network, Parchment has had a long history of supporting both college admissions and registrar offices with the collection and processing of admissions documents through traditionally the Parchment Receive or Parchment Receive Premium inbox. And that's been great. It's helped with, kind of streamlining that process, but we've long been asked to take this a step further. We often use the analogy at Parchment that we can deliver the groceries to your front door, but we can't put them in the refrigerator for you. Meaning we've always been able to deliver an image of the transcript, a PDF, but in the past we couldn't get that critical information off of the transcript and into your student information system or other internal systems, but we now can. So through our partnership with Smart Panda, we are introducing a powerful tool for data extraction, which gives colleges the ability to extract key admissions and transfer data off of the transcript faster and hopefully with greater accuracy. And there's many reasons why Parchment sought a solution to this problem. The first is that we know that transfer admissions is increasing, and it's increasing in importance to higher ed. With the ever-looming demographic cliff and the changing sentiments about the value of post-secondary education, colleges are seeking creative ways to offset that attrition. But we hear all the time from students that the transfer process can be kind of frustrating, and that there's less transparency, that there's more steps than perhaps the traditional admissions process. And when polled, about how the transfer process could be improved, number 4 on the list was making the process faster. And this is really where we see the Parchment data automation solution helping by speeding up the time to get that critical admissions and transfer information to your necessary systems to continue the process of enrolling that student. And it's not just a frustrating process for students, it's also a frustrating process for administrators as well. I don't think that 257 of you and counting would be listening to me today if it wasn't something that you all care about. So, we hear from admissions and registrars' offices that supporting transfer students often includes an extremely manual process. It's a process that requires a great deal of resources, but budgets continue to tighten because of pressure on enrollment. And so we're seeking solutions to help streamline the process for students and remove the burden of manual and repetitive work. And that's how data automation can help. So enter data automation. Data automation creates a more streamlined transfer process by reallocating and saving critical resources, increasing speed to admission and credit decisions, which can improve yield rates, which I know everyone cares about. It provides clearer transfer data, which can help lead to better decision making for both students and for administrators. And hopefully it leads to an overall improvement in the student experience. But what does this actually look like? So first, transcripts can be pulled in from Parchment Receive Premium or any channel with which you receive transcripts today. So yes, that means that this tool is not exclusive to just your Parchment transcripts. It can be used with any domestic transcript that you receive to your office today. So if you're getting transcripts printed and mailed to your office, if you're getting them through another vendor, you can use the data automation tool to get the course information. So once the transcripts are pulled in from where they're coming in from, the tool will go through the process of automatically extracting the transcript data, which can include admissions criteria like GPA, degree or diploma awarded, as well as course information for the purpose of credit evaluation. And then this information is posted into your student information system, your CRM, or any other internal system, entirely touch-free or with as little clicks as possible. This is a visual of what a sample workflow might look like. So we mentioned before, transcripts might come in through the Parchment Receive Premium service. They could also come in through other vendors, so non-Parchment transcripts. They're all going into the data automation tool. And for some folks, that looks like just one output into their student information system, especially if we're just talking about transfer information. But for some of you, you're probably also interested in using this tool for admissions as well. So we can support multiple outputs. So if your admissions team wants to use this tool to pull in just admissions criteria and deliver that to Slate or TargetX or whatever your CRM is, and then your registrar wants to use it to deliver transfer information to your student information system, we can support those kind of concurrent business processes. If there's any IT folks on the call or just folks that are curious in general about how we can connect into your internal systems, we can really support any integration option. So for those of you on the call that maybe use Banner, we can use Sharpeasy to deliver information. We can also support kind of agnostically any script or API that your IT team uses today. If you work with a middleware vendor like Axiom, Constituo, iData, you can also use them to integrate. Or for anyone using Ellucian products and you're using Ethos today for other systems, we can also use Ethos to integrate as well. Now, I know some of you might be familiar with kind of more traditional OCR solutions, and you might be curious to know how the data automation solution compares. And what we hear often is that legacy OCR is often kind of a clunky tool requiring a long, difficult implementation process, sometimes has complicated cross structures, and is really only as good as the templates that you set up. So you have to both create, maintain, and continue to maintain templates in order for the OCR to work and actually read a transcript. But with Parchment's data automation tool, it's faster to implement because it's hosted on the cloud. It's priced more simply because it is a subscription-based model, and it's ready to read transcripts out of the box without the need to set up any templates. And it also has a flexible learning engine that uses state-of-the-art algorithms to continue to learn new transcript formats, which we know transcripts are ever changing, formats are ever changing. And so we want a solution that meets the needs of that. Now, this is where I say, but don't take my word for it. We have a nice little case study here with our friends at University of Houston downtown. And Lisa Lyle, their assistant registrar, shared that before data automation, they were completely underwater on transcript processing. And while doing the process manually, it would often take, on average, 20 minutes or more to manually key in that transcript data into PeopleSoft, which is their student information system. Now that they have data automation, they're able to shave a week off of their decision time and save countless hours by automating those processes. So with that, what you're all here for is to actually see this tool in action. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the data automation tool. Now, I'll start today by showing you a process by which you would manually bring in a transcript. So I'm sure many of you are storing transcripts in your imaging system. You might have shared drives where the image transcripts are being held. Wherever a transcript might live, you can go out, retrieve that transcript, and bring it into the tool for the purpose of OCR. I'll show you that to start, but I do want to mention that there is also a batch process that we can run as well, because as you'll see, it's going through the time to read the transcript. It can take, 15, 20, 30 seconds for a longer transcript. And we know that all of that time is valuable. So we can also run transcripts through a batch process. So you're not having to sit here and wait for it to read the transcript, but rather you can go through and evaluate transcripts in a batch mode. But we'll start here with this more manual process and give it a chance here to read the information. And I always say it's just because I'm sharing my screen that's taking a little bit longer than normal. You know how Zoom is. While it's reading that, I do want to show here in our profile. So I imagine there's lots of rules in your business process today that you would want a tool to respect, because it's the rules that the folks that are actually keying in this information would respect while they're keying in the information. So for example, there might be certain grades that you normally wouldn't input into your student information system. So my examples here include, passing or in progress grades, or perhaps you don't accept a grade, lower than a D or an F grade. You can set up those rules, and then as the tool is reading the transcript, it will automatically ignore the courses or the grades that don't align with your business process. So great. All right, so the transcript has been read by Raptor. And if I could see your faces, this would be the point where everyone kind of oohs and ahs, because as you can see, this is a long transcript with a lot of course information on it. But the data automation tool has a pretty cool arrow tool that will show you where on the transcript that the course information is. So you're not having to scan, each row of the transcript, which can be a bit of an eyesore. But you can just click on the course it is that you want to, visually check and make sure that the information is correct. And the information here in this grid is ultimately what would get pushed back to your student information system or whatever internal system it is that we're talking about pushing information back to. And this is editable. So if you're reviewing it and you realize a grade is incorrect or student earned more units than it initially says, you can update that. So if this was actually a 3-credit course, I can change that. The student actually received an A+ instead of an A, I can change that. And then once I've assured that I've made all of the necessary changes to the information that's been scraped off of the transcript, at that point, I can push this button and it would take me back to my student information system or wherever this information is going. And you'll see here, there's 2 spots for an external org ID and a student ID. The external org ID is whatever code it is that you use to associate the college or high school that the transcript came from. And then the student ID is obviously the student ID number that lives in your student information system. And those are really critical elements because when we push the information back to your system, we want to make sure that we push it back to both the right student, but also the right record. I think the average now is students are transferring up to 3 times. So they're going to have, potentially more than one transcript that needs to be evaluated. So we want to make sure that we're associating coursework with the right records. So if we're done with this transcript, we would push it into our student information system and we would move on to the next one. I do want to show here, I've set up a transcript that did have some of those rules we talked about before about potentially grades that aren't acceptable for your admissions process. So there's a D+ grade here, there's a W grade, an F grade. Because I've set up the rules that say, please ignore those grades, it has not included them in this grid. And I can just, move on with my day. But you can see that there are some transfer courses on this transcript. So if I also want to ignore those, I can also just highlight these rows and delete them. And so now I've got just the accurate picture of the courses that might be transferable, and I can push these into my student information system. So that's what kind of the manual process of going in and bringing a transcript, putting it through that OCR process might look like. But we did mention that there is also a kind of what we would call a batch mode as well. So whether that's coming in through your Parchment Receive Premium service, if you license that today, if you have an output that you can connect to from another transcript vendor, or even an export from Slate, really anywhere that you might want to deliver transcripts from, if they have the ability to export those in a batch through an SFTP or an API process, you can deliver those to Raptor or data automation. And now we can evaluate and edit the information in a batch process. So in this case, I've got 4 transcripts that have come in, and I can go through and see where these transcripts came from. So what students do they belong to, and what's the school that the transcript came from. And then I can also see the number of cells that were filled in by the tool, and also what's kind of like the confidence level of the accuracy of the information on it. As you can see here, it feels pretty confident about the information, but it hasn't filled in all of the cells. So I might want to do kind of a visual check of that information and make sure that I get all of the cells filled in. In this case, this looks like a high school transcript. So it's got some information that maybe doesn't perfectly align right away with the same elements that we would want from a college transcript. Also, we know that there's not a ton of consistency on what a high school transcript looks like versus we've got a little bit more consensus on the post-secondary side. So I might need to do a little bit of work to fill in these extra details. So if I want to fill this in, just make sure I've got the right catalog numbers, whatever that is, I can go in, add that information, and once I'm satisfied with all the fields that they're accurate, I can then push them over to the student information system. If you attended a webinar with us before, you might have seen us primarily talk about post-secondary transcripts, college transcripts being read by this tool. But we are excited to say that we have made some advancements in the algorithm so that the data automation solution can better read high school transcripts as well. Now, what you might care about on a transcript, it really depends college by college, even program by program. So for some of you, you might just be interested in being able to get the GPA off of the transcript. For others, you might be looking for particular coursework. What's the highest level of math, the highest level of English that a student has completed. We have made advancements in the tool that can help support not only the transfer process, but high school transcripts as well. So you can see here, I've put the transcript through the high school logic, because again, high school transcripts do look a little bit different from transcript to transcript, whereas there is more consensus on the college side. So we want to make sure we use the specific algorithm for high school transcripts, and it's pulling off the information as best it can. And our good friend, the arrow tool, is still there to support us as we go through and visually check the information to make sure that it is accurate. And so we talked about before, we can support, for the college transcripts, delivery of that information into your student information system. And for high school transcripts, we can support sending information back to your CRM. We can support sending it to the student information system as well. Really, we want to kind of get to know your business process, get to know what information is important to you, and make sure that we kind of design the tool to deliver the information that you need. So with that, I am going to bring back my presentation. Just got a couple more slides, and then we should have plenty of time today for some Q&A. So we spent some time kind of going through what the tool itself looks like, but also want to spend some time talking about what it looks like to partner with Parchment in general. We really believe that our extensive member network creates not only a meaningful exchange of data, but a robust community of like-minded institutions who are implementing really innovative solutions to support their students. That's evident just by the number of you that are on this webinar right now, that institutions are really looking for solutions. And these just represent a handful of institutions that currently license the data automation solution today, but that number is growing quite a bit. And we're here to support you every step of the way. We offer a broad range of customer support. We include, as a part of the implementation process for this solution, not only assistance from our partners at Smart Panda, but also at Parchment. So you'll always have a broad range of support, both online, and also live as well. And with that, I am going to ask my colleague Matt to pop on, and we will hopefully get through some of your questions.
And we've got some phenomenal questions in the Q&A here. Continue to ask your questions. So one of the themes is people want to know about the integrations with CRM and the SIS. You touched on this a little bit, Heather, but can you talk a little bit more about the integrations that are possible and that are offered today, and just give us a little bit more detail on what that looks like? Because a lot of people are wondering, Slate, TargetX, Ellucian, Colleague, Banner, what does it really look like for them? And I think at the heart of it is people want to know, how easy is this going to be to implement, and how easy is it going to integrate with the systems I'm already using?
Yeah, well, I always say easy is relative, but what I can say is that we have many customers using the solution today with a wide range of integrative options. So I had a slide before that talked about, for Banner specifically, we have folks using the Sharpeasy process to integrate with Banner and data automation. For other Ellucian customers, you might be running Ethos today. For some other tools, we can tap into that. And for everything else, we try to be really flexible. So whether that's SFTP, API, or if you have a partner already that runs middleware to integrate your tools. So we called out specifically Axiom, Constituo, iData, but really we hope to be as agnostic as possible. So as long as there is, a kind of an output and an input option, we should be able to kind of tap into that. Now, the level of kind of investment from your IT folks is obviously going to vary based on what option you choose, their own experience with that integrative option, but we try to provide as much support as we can as we go through that process.
And another set of questions were around international versus domestic. So can it handle international transcripts? And then a follow-on to that is transcripts in different languages.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first part of the answer is that yes, we can support both domestic and international transcripts. The second half of that question on non-translated transcripts is that as of today, that's not something that we can support. So if you've got transcripts that have already been translated by a service like Wes or any other vendor that does that work today, we do have the ability to bring in information from those transcripts. Of course, we want to know more about how you handle those transcripts today, but we should be able to support your business process for those. But for those that have not yet been translated, they would still need to go through a service like Wes or others before it could be put through this tool.
And then we received a lot of questions on the GPA calculation. So a lot of people are curious about what you can set up in terms of recalculating GPA. And some people have said we've got a complicated process. What's possible related to calculating GPA and being able to process that? Is there any clarity you can give us on that process?
Yeah, I mean, I know that colleges approach this different across the board. So again, we want to try and support that as much as we can, but this might not be kind of the magic bullet. So what I mean by that is, at its heart, the tool is reading the information that's just directly on the transcript. But we know that in some cases, institutions are pulling off, maybe a set of core curriculum that the students completed and calculating a GPA that's specific to, just that, or just math, or just English. There's a lot of different ways that we can slice and dice it. In short, yes, we can support the ability to recalculate GPA, but we'd want to know more about, especially whoever said they have a very complicated way of recalculating. We want to learn more about that before we say, yes, for sure, we can handle it. but we do have experience today with working with institutions that do some of that recalculation, and the data automation tool is now doing that for them.
And then we have a few quick ones. Can it handle scanned paper transcripts or microfilm?
Yeah, I mean, so microfilm, if you've turned it into an image that is readable, so PDF, PNG, JPEG, something like that, we can pull it in. That's actually, while we're talking, I'm happy to bring in an example that maybe is not as pretty as some of the ones that we just showed. In fact, I have a whole file here of transcript that we call a little bit ugly. Hopefully no one takes offense to that. But it's transcripts that have been written on. They were printed and mailed to your office, and you then had to scan them in, and they're not perfectly straight, or the information is a little bit fuzzy. The tool should be able to still read that information.
And of course, we've got the question that everybody's wondering, which is the cost related to it. And I know that you are not going to give us the specific cost because you don't know the specific cost for each institution that's on the webinar today. But if you could, Heather, just talk broadly about, what the model is and what people can expect in terms of how this pricing is baked out. Can you just give them an idea of what it looks like in terms of how we think about the pricing?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, just want to say that the tool did just read that transcript that we put through it. And our arrow tool is still showing us where on the transcript that information is at. So just wanted to call that out while we're talking. But yeah, so pricing, like I mentioned before, is a subscription-based model. So we want to know more about your institution before we provide a specific quote, because there's a couple of different elements that go into the pricing, up to including, what's the size of your institution, what's potentially the volume of high school transcripts that you receive, and then also what is the information that you want. We kind of joke about there's like a vanilla version of this, right? Vanilla is out of the box the ability to read post-secondary transcripts for the purpose of transfer. So getting course information, grades, units, all of that off of a transcript. And similarly, with the high school transcripts, if we're looking for just the GPA or just the coursework on the transcript, that's going to be a really simple kind of subscription model and then an implementation fee. When we start talking about some of the more fancy things we might want it to do, so in the ability to pull just specific curriculum off of it and then recalculate a GPA, that might include some additional implementation costs up front. Any way you slice it, we would want to learn more about your specific process at your institution so that we could provide a quote that is for your institution specifically.
And Benjamin asks a great question. So many different names: Smart Panda, Raptor, Parchment, data automation. I laugh because he's not wrong.
He probably also heard me slip with in my own mind using them interchangeably.
Yes. So what role does each play? And Heather, if you could just kind of go through, simplify it for us, Heather.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and sorry, I should have been more clear up front on that. So you saw a slide early in my presentation that this solution is available through our partnership with Smart Panda. Smart Panda is the company that Parchment has partnered with. Parchment is the exclusive partner and reseller of the solution that is provided by Smart Panda. So Smart Panda is the company, and the tool that we're talking about today is called Raptor by Smart Panda. Parchment refers to it as data automation. So you can use Raptor and data automation kind of interchangeably for the product, the platform that we're talking about today.
And another great question we got a few times, which is, what is the accuracy rate? What does it actually look, what can people expect? Nothing's perfect. What's the accuracy rate? And then is there a way to flag kind of low confidence? I think people are just looking at this as a tool of, how do I trust this tool? How do I kind of have a manual review of things that need manual review? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so first I want to show in the actual interface that the tool itself will kind of grade itself on its level of confidence in the information that it's pulled off the transcript in the batch process. Now, in the process I showed before of kind of manually pulling in a transcript, we assume during that process there's a kind of a human at the center of that process that is visually looking for potential errors after the transcript's gone through the OCR process. So there's not necessarily the same flag of confidence level when you run it through that process. In any indication, like in any of these processes, we can report, a general average of confidence, but I always encourage folks to understand that there's kind of nuance even when we, say what the average is. So if I say it's, 98% is the average accuracy, that can really depend on what it is that we're talking about. Is it a transcript that looks really pretty and is, one of your top feeding institutions that the tool has seen 10, 100, 200 times? The accuracy level for that transcript, might be 100% versus one that it's never seen before. Or we talked about international transcripts. The accuracy of that initially might be lower than that 97, 98%. But what this tool offers is the ability to kind of train that algorithm so that it learns over time with the goal of increasing accuracy with time. So I always encourage folks, it's of course a common question to ask of, how accurate is this going to be? But there's some nuance in the answer.
And we've gotten this question a few different ways, and we touched on it a little bit, but people are curious about quarters to semesters to trimesters and being able to convert those. Can you help us understand that a little bit better? Because I think what people are asking is, I've got all these different types of transcripts that I ultimately want to translate. And what does that look like? And what has your experience been working with schools that are desiring that type of process?
Yeah, we can definitely support the process of kind of recalculating to make sure if we're following a semester rule, but we brought in trimester credits, that we can do that recalculation.
A few quick questions. With hard answers, what is the time commitment to implement the product?
Yeah, that's really going to depend on what integrative options you choose, and also candidly kind of how complicated you want to like how complicated your business rules and building out the project. So kind of out of the box reading college and high school transcripts, we would say it would be about a 4 to 6 week investment from your team. Now that 4 to 6 weeks can be stretched out over time dependent on availability of IT resources and all of that. But kind of standard implementation should be within several weeks. But if we want to choose to train the algorithm for specific core curriculum or to do that recalculation of GPA, however kind of intricate we want to get, that might add time to the overall process to implement, or time to implement, I should say.
And there's so many great questions. We're probably not going to get to all of them. We've gone through a lot of the questions, but we've got them continually coming in, and some of you have very great questions that are specific to your institution. We'd obviously love to connect with you directly so that we can walk through all the detailed questions that you have. You have your specific CRM, your SIS question that you may have about a specific high school that's feeding into you, or a specific college that's sending you a lot of transcripts, and you have a specific use case, we'd love to connect with you on that. And so obviously we'd love to start the conversation and set up a separate demo where perhaps other members of your team could be there. So we're not going to get to every question today. We appreciate all of your questions. So please, if we don't get to it, it's not because we didn't want to answer it, but we hope that we can continue the conversation with the rest of you and answer all of your questions. Looking for a few other questions that we can handle here. And the webinar is going to be available to watch later. So if you look at the chat, Velma put the link in there where you can access all the recordings, and she hopes to have the webinar up later today if you want to share that with colleagues as well. So let me see if there's any other questions that we should definitely tackle. Oh, here's a question. What does OCR mean? It means optical character recognition. So basically the ability to read the text on a PDF, for instance. Here's a question. Will the tool pick up degree and conferral date?
Yes, it can. So if it's on the transcript, if it's a field that exists on the transcript, yes, the tool can pick that up. And if we need to put that into Slate, if it needs to go in the student information system, yes, we can deliver that as a part of the output in addition to any coursework or other information.
And I love this because David says, awkward question. It looks like we can get Smart Panda directly. What's the markup look like through Parchment? What is the value add if we aren't using Parchment Premium? Can you walk us through that, Heather?
So I mentioned before, but we have an exclusive partnership with Smart Panda. So anyone interested in licensing the solution would go through Parchment, not through Smart Panda. And we think we provide the value of our network. So we've got, all of the institutions that I showed on the kind of our network slide. We've got partners today that are already licensing this tool. So we're able to, tap you into a network of folks that you can ask questions of. And then, we're taking on all of the marketing and all of the stuff that goes into bringing a solution like this to you all. We also provide, if you choose to license the solution, we provide the account management and so the support after you've implemented as well. So, we would hope that we were providing value through that as well as you continue to use the tool.
And we've got another question about XML. So, obviously we showed PDFs being consumed and uploaded through the batch process and the manual process as well. But, some institutions are receiving XML from, they might have a state initiative or, in their state, a lot of the colleges are sending XML. How does this tool help with consuming XML?
Yeah, so we are supporting a number of institutions where there are in-state exchanges of data. So I think about our friends in Indiana, our friends in Ohio, where Parchment is supporting that exchange already, just as Parchment as kind of the issuing and receiving network of those credentials. What I showed today was data automation as an OCR solution, but there is also a version of this that can support the delivery of XML itself as well. So if you're receiving XML through Parchment or through Speedy or through some other channel, but you need help getting that information delivered to your student information system, this tool can be used as kind of a pass-through for that as well. Candidly and transparently, that this is, it would be licensed separately from the OCR solution. We'd want to learn more about what your goals are with XML to determine, what the most appropriate tool is for you at your institution.
And what does the support look like? Because obviously we are the exclusive partner, but what does support look like ongoing? Who do they contact? Do they contact Smart Panda? Do they contact Parchment? What does that look like?
Yeah, so Parchment can be your account executive at Parchment can be kind of your main point of contact, and they can help get you over to Smart Panda if it's necessary for us to, have a technical discussion or whatever that might be. Smart Panda is able to, if you have a transcript that it's really giving you trouble, you can share that transcript with Smart Panda directly through the user interface, and they will use that to build out an algorithm or a template basically to be able to read that transcript. So there's support all along the way to initially implement. We provide a project manager from the Parchment side to help support the project, in addition to the resources from Smart Panda. And then after you've implemented, you'll have support from both Parchment and Smart Panda as well.
And here's a great question from Michael. Can we have a separate Parchment feed for, what he would call like Smart Panda processing or something, and another going directly to the CRM so the transcript is available right away with parsing the data coming later? So help us understand the optionality with the workflow.
Yeah, we can support, you can insert the data automation tool kind of anywhere in your business process. So we talked about initially that might look like you wanting to have it come directly from your Parchment Receive Premium inbox. And so Parchment can set up two separate feeds, one to maybe send the image or the PDF of the transcript to Slate. I'm sure a lot of you all are using our Slate integration already and want to continue to support that. So you can do that. And then we can set up kind of a concurrent process where we're delivering those same images to data automation for the OCR process. We can also kind of flip that order, or there's some institutions today that are bringing in the image of the transcript from Parchment, delivering it to Slate, and then only those students that are actually admitted to the university having those transcripts be a batch output process from Slate to the data automation tool. So however you want to kind of order of operations this, we should be able to support that work.
And a great question, do you have any Texas customers? If so, have there been issues with Smart Panda and Texas ramp requirements? Well, I can answer the first part, and Heather shared this. University of Houston downtown has adopted this, and we have a case study with them in which they illuminated just the benefits of moving forward with this in terms of they were completely underwater. They were not getting decisions to students quick enough for the purposes of transfer specifically, and it's really transformed the way that they handle their process. And as all of you know, getting a decision in the hands of students quickly is extremely valuable as they make choices on where they're going to pursue their next educational opportunity. And so University of Houston downtown is a great case study that we have with them. Texas ramp requirements, I'm not familiar with that. Heather, I don't know if you are, but if you can touch on that.
I can, yeah. And I'll just add that we actually just had another member in Texas go live within the last few weeks, which is the University of Texas at Austin, which we're obviously very proud of. And there's additional UT campuses going live as well. We were able to successfully get the tool to the UT campuses. Smart Panda has provisional ramp clearance right now, and they're working on the official Texas ramp certification. So we've not had any issue to date with that, but always happy to chat more if you have specific questions about it.
And we have a great question from Esau, and there's a lot of products out there, Heather, related to data automation. And the reason that this webinar has so many people is we've found throughout the past 6 months, so many people are interested. What that tells me is, there's a problem to solve. People are looking to solve this issue. And what Esau wants to know is how is this different than the other products out there? So without saying, why we think that we're so great, but what do you think our unique value is? How are we different? Not necessarily better, but how are we different than other providers that may be out in the space.
Yeah, and like how you set that up, Matt, because better is really relative, right? But different is how you kind of tell everyone a little bit that seems similar, a little bit apart. And so I would say that the similarities that you probably hear is that we're all cloud hosted, and that we are all kind of moving away from that legacy OCR solution of being, hosted on the premises, and being able to move away from the need to create and maintain templates. That's probably a commonality across all of the folks that are kind of in this space today. How we think we're different, and it's going to be kind of a hard answer to communicate, but our algorithms, Smart Panda's algorithms that are used to read the transcripts are proprietary, and they're based on the learnings over time. So one is, we think we have a great accuracy level just based on the work that Smart Panda has done to build out those algorithms, including not just college transcripts, but high school transcripts and beyond. So I think that's kind of one of the things that might set us apart. The support and trust of Parchment behind this Smart Panda partnership, we hope is something that is different and meaningful for people. And the rest, we'd have to learn a little bit more about what it is that you're looking for to see if we're a good fit.
And Heather, I think that's a good place to start wrapping up here, because there's so many questions. We're not going to get to all of them. And so, as we kind of wrap up the webinar today, what are next steps, and what do you recommend for people in terms of interacting with us, and what conversations can we have, and what questions should people be asking? Like, what have you heard as you've gone through the process of connecting with schools? Like, what questions should they be asking? Like, what different ways should they consider implementation? If you could give kind of best practices of how to start thinking about how to conceive of this at your institution, what do you recommend? And then what is a solid follow-up plan as we move forward from here?
Well, I'm consistently impressed, over the last 11 months that we've had our partnership with Smart Panda, with just the curiosity and the number of questions that folks have had about this product. And I'm so encouraged that folks are looking for solutions. So the first step you've already done by being on this webinar, and others, I'm sure, and learning more about what's available. I mentioned my personal background of being a transfer admissions counselor for a long time before coming to Parchment, and the institution that I worked with that had 100,000 students at the time was doing this work manually, and they've now licensed this tool because they know that just speeding up the time it takes to get this information in the hands of students is really important. And it's also meaningful for the folks on the kind of the front line that are doing this work as well. There's so much more meaningful and fulfilling work that we can be doing besides kind of manual data entry. So first step in the process, check, you're out here evaluating what's possible. The second thing is you're already asking excellent questions. As the nature of admissions changes over time, there's new ways that we're evaluating applicants through things like multiple measures and other admissibility requirements. So asking those questions of, how can we, that's great, we've got this transcript, we can scrape information off of it, but how can we use a tool like this to make sure that we're getting, the most meaningful data to really make an informed decision for the purpose of admissions is great. So you're already doing the work. We want to talk with you more, learn more about each of your unique kind of needs for something like this. So I have thrown on the screen here, if you want to learn more and connect with myself and my team, you can go to parchment.com/start the conversation, and we'd love to chat with you more.
And by my count, Heather, we had about 115 questions, of which we got to, according to me, clicking through and answering live, 53. So we have so many questions.
Wow.
So, the takeaway for me is we need an FAQ doc that we need to create here and send out to everybody because of these phenomenal questions. So we are recording this. You will have access to it, and we'll send it out as well. But we hope to follow up because so many of you are, like I saw someone say, hey, I'm working and trying to pay attention to the webinar, which we totally get. And so we'll try to send out some answers to the most common questions as well, because obviously there's an interest in learning a lot more. So we've got some follow-up items on our end as well, but hope to connect with everybody real soon.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for the time. I know it's there's so much important work being done, and the fact that you take an hour of your time to sit and chat with us and learn more about what we have to offer, we really appreciate it. And thanks as always to our friends at Acro as well for letting us have the time. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Belma, and thanks again, everyone.
And I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who took the time to attend the webinar today. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Parchment team, for this great webinar. I have posted throughout the webinar letting you know the link to access the recording. If you have any questions, please email me at webinars@acro.org. I wish everyone a wonderful day. Thank you so much.